like to pull over me? Hey.
Shirley.
Pull a pistol on me.
Shirley.
Come out the door with your pussy ass.
Shirley.
Come out the door.
Shirley.
Come out the door with your third ass bitch. Gotta light your
Shirley.
ass up.
Shirley.
You pulling, motherfucker pussy. You pulling, bitch. I'm going to Shirley. You pulling, you pussy. Bitch, I got mine now. I got my bullets, bitch. You, bitch, I ain't need my family yard. Bitch, I ain't got to go nowhere, motherfucker. I ain't got to go nowhere, bitch. Motherfucker, I ain't got to go nowhere, bitch. Motherfucker, get my family yard, motherfucker. Bitch, I ain't scared of you, motherfucker. I ain't scared of you, bitch. I ain't scared of you. You pull a pistol on a woman, you put the ass motherfucker, look at you. I'm the right bitch, put it up. Shoot it then, bitch. Bitch, you dead, pussy, motherfucker.
I want the vaccine. Figure they did not show me no want that same vaccine. When you put in the vaccine, long time they want kill out the black team vaccine. Me no want no vaccine. Prefer we go live in a bush with vaccine. When you put in the vaccine, me sure no protein. Right, see, this whole COVID-19. You know say Babylon wicked army is a scheme. Them want mess up your cheek. Tell us say a new world order this me. Oh no, nah, put no chip in a me. Chicken on me, control switching on me. No, Bill Gates, go for your daddy. You and your mad friend, them in the lobby. Vaccine, me no want no vaccine.
You got it. Everything.
You got it.
All that too. All this.
What is you doing?
Damn.
What is you doing?
I'm talking about him. That nigga got to do.
Damn. 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 Damn.
Finding this man, they say stabbed a woman's husband and pushed her downstairs at a Bronx subway station. Officers say around 7:45 at night on April 27th, the man was acting belligerent on a northbound 4 train and got into an argument with the couple. He followed them off the train at East 170th Street and Jerome Avenue, punched the husband in the head and then stabbed him, and pushed the woman downstairs. Both were taken to the hospital. Police say the man they are looking for is around 30 years old.
What do you want this? I want you to go and get your video outside.
Through a normally quiet neighborhood in southwest Miami-Dade. A SWAT situation ending with a man in the hospital and 3 people dead inside a home.
The detectives now have the undaunting task of figuring out piece by piece what took place at this residence.
Miami-Dade police say they arrived to the area just before 5 o'clock Sunday. They say a man ran to a neighbor's house after telling them he was shot by his own son. The shots were fired at a home on southwest 191st Terrace and 129th Avenue.
Sentí como si hubieran sido como unos 3 tiros.
This woman says she heard about 3 gunshots. Cell phone video shows that when police arrived to the home, they attempted to shout commands and then heard what resembled a gunshot. A SWAT team was called to the scene along with hostage negotiators, a startling sight for neighbors.
The most I saw was everyone drawn and ready. And as soon as I saw that, I got really scared and I raced home.
After trying to make contact, officers eventually forced their way into the home and found the shooter and 2 adult women dead inside. The shooter's father was taken to Jackson South in stable condition. 2 children who were inside when the initial shots were fired were able to make it out safely. The motive tonight, still unclear.
We're not discarding the possibility that it was over dispute. However, we're not ruling out the possibility.
Get your hand on me. Get your hand off me, bro. Put your hand on me. Get your hand off me. Let me go. You just hit me with a nice stick. Chill out. Chill out. Bro, let me go. Hey. Right? Get out. Wrong with you? Jesus. Get out. Shoot me. Get out. Bitch, kill me. Get out. Kill me. Get out. Lord, let this foolishness go. Get out. Kill me. Let him go. Kill me.
I'm moving.
Bro, it's Jets in the store. Let's go. Baby, my baby's in the store, baby. Just go. Let it be today, baby.
Now you move out the way. You move out the way.
Don't help me. KK. I'm moving. Hey, we gotta go. Don't play with me. Come on. KK, I ain't playing with you. You heard what I said. You hit me with a nightstick, bitch. You about to kill me. KK. Come on, y'all. You got a son to go home. KK, let's go. It's not worth it, bro. You just hit me. You gotta come out today. I'm coming back, bitch. And you better use that same gun, bitch. You hear me? I ain't no pussy, but I told you about that, man. This ain't my first offense with you, nigga. You gotta put a gun out for a female, bitch? Yeah, you about to beat your ass. Fuck you mean, man? Took your gun? Bitch, I got my car. Fuck you mean, bitch? You hit me with a nightstick just now, pussy. And I took that shit. KK, I ate your shit, bitch. Fuck you got going on, nigga? Fuck wrong with you? Pussy ass Haitian? Fuck wrong with you? You got my phone? Yeah, I picked your phone. Yeah, put it on your face. Fuck wrong with this nigga, man? He done hit me with that motherfucking nightstick, bruh. Bitch, I beat your ass, bro. You pussy, you would've been shot me, bitch.
And is why he wants to know the motive, if it was motivated by the fact that he's been speaking out against AAPI attacks, or maybe this was just random.
It hurts more than it looks.
Carl Chan says he's feeling better. His left knee is taped up after a man attacked him yesterday afternoon just outside of Chinatown, near the corner of Broadway and 8th Street.
So when I was making a turn, and then the attack came so sudden. It was a cowardly attack from behind.
While on the ground, he took a picture of the suspect walking away. He knows to be a good witness for months of educating the public about the AAPI attacks. He organized multiple Stop the Hate rallies and even convinced Oakland police to bring back the Chinatown liaison officer.
I did exactly what I told others. So I did the right thing, but I want to make sure everyone to understand when things happen to you, be calm and understand how to protect yourself as much as you could.
He says the man punched him in the back of his head. The impact caused him to fall down.
My hands saved my life, so I was able to push myself up and stand against the guy.
He says that prevented his head from hitting the pavement.
He did not say my name. Yeah, and he did not rob me, so it was basically just an assault and attack.
Carl says during the attack, the man called him a Chinaman and dropped a lot of F-bombs. He saw the attacker about 20 minutes later in the same area and called the police. Police arrested the man. Ironically, before the attack, Carl was on his way to visit this Chinese senior who on Monday was beaten up on the bus. No robbery.
A violent weekend in Central Florida for the second time in 2 weeks. Orlando police are investigating a shooting downtown, the latest one leaving a man dead. Treasure Roberts is live at Orlando Police headquarters this morning. And Treasure, there are still lots of questions about what led to the violence.
Yeah, Justin, there are still a lot of unanswered questions, but what we do know right now is that it all started with a fight that quickly turned deadly. Police rushed to the corner of Orange and Central Boulevard after the gunfire right around 2:30 yesterday morning. Homicide detectives say 34-year-old Joseph Torres tried to walk through a group of people that were on the corner when the suspect blocked his path. Detectives say that's when the fight broke out, and the suspect then fired a gun, killing Torres. This is the second shooting downtown in just 2 weeks. We told you last month when officers were responding to a fight near Pine and Court Street when they heard several gunshots. You can see people scrambling to get away after hearing the gunfire. A man later showed up to the hospital injured. Officers later released a photo of a person of interest, but haven't said whether they've made any arrests. Now, as for the latest shooting, officers have not identified a suspect. They are asking that if you have any information to please call OPD or the crime line at 1-800.
个逼啊！你如果死了，你这问好的，你妈了个逼！你吃了，你吃了，你是不是问好的啊？
你切！
你妈了个逼啊！
Searching for a driver who struck a 13-year-old boy on Long Island and failed to stop. CBS 2's Christina Fan, live from North Lawrence with more, including surveillance video that captured the whole thing. Christina?
Well, Chris, the teenage boy was in such a rush to make it to a haircut appointment. He ran straight into the path of an oncoming car while trying to cross this busy street. That driver never stopped, even as the boy lay suffering in pain. Surveillance video shows a 13-year-old boy running head-on into traffic, right into a moving car. His body catapults onto the sidewalk as the driver pulls away.
It's terrible to leave the kid on the street like that.
Izzy Boboyev owns Royal Barber Shop. It was his surveillance camera that captured the collision and the driver taking off. He says the teenage boy is a longtime customer of his and was in a rush to cross Burnside Avenue to get to his hair appointment Sunday afternoon.
When I saw the mother, she was panicking, Then I realized that was my customer, Then I told her, calm down, everything will be okay, don't worry.
Police released these images of the hit-and-run car, described as a gray or blue Volkswagen Passat.
Family's story that's way too familiar right now. Their son shot and killed a block from their home. They want answers and justice, and tonight they may be one step closer. Here's our Shawnette Wilson.
Philadelphia has always been home to this family, but sadly they say now might be the time to go. A week after their son was shot to death, they want to know how a car crash ended with him being murdered. Cell phone video showing 19-year-old Bryant Hurd Jr. in happy times.
I wish I could have that time back.
Now, videos showing him full of life are all Bryant Sr. and his wife Cindy have left to remember their only son.
The part is gone now that it ain't gonna never come back.
Someone shot Bryant to death just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon on April 20th near his only home on Wagner Street.
Cold-blooded murder in broad daylight.
Police say a 19-year-old, not named by police, was in a white Ford Crown Vic and driving fast on Wagner Avenue when he hit Bryant's Chrysler 300 as he was turning onto Wagner. Police say immediately after the accident, another man came from down the street where he had been fixing a car and shot Bryant several times. It's a tragic ending to a promising life.
Monday, he had just took his carpentry union's test for apprenticeship. So he felt good about that. He had an interview on Thursday. He was excited because he knew he was about to get a career going.
Earlier on, Bryant had completed both the police and fire cadet programs. The 35th District Advisory Council posted this tribute on social media, calling Bryant a great young man and a very hard worker. Heartbroken, his parents say they kept him from the streets but still lost him.
I didn't think I had to worry about him. But because what's going on in this city and, the gun violence, you had to worry.
Police right now are only saying this man, Terrence Fleming Jr. from the 5200 block of North Camac, is wanted for weapons violation concerning this homicide investigation.
I know he in a better place.
The other 19-year-old involved in that accident had to be extricated from the car and was in stable condition. Meanwhile, still no word on how the person who shot and killed Bryant is connected to all this, and no arrest has been made. Shawnette Wilson, Fox 29 News.
He is searching for a woman who attacked an Asian woman with a hammer near Times Square. Police say the suspect approached the victim last night outside Ollie's restaurant on West 42nd Street. The suspect allegedly said, "Take off your mask," and then struck the 34-year-old woman who was from California in the head. The victim was...
Got her. Got a little pretty ass. She got them cheeks out. They gang banging down here. They down here gang banging. Ooh, they about to get her on her ass. They jumping your friend. You better ride. They jumping your friend. You better ride. You better ride. You better ride. You better ride.
Into a group of people on a 57-year-old man has been charged with attempted murder after driving into a group of people on a picnic in Logan Square.
And WGN's Kelly Davis is joining us now live with the latest details. Kelly.
Good evening, Ray and Micah. Timothy Nielsen was denied bond during his court hearing this afternoon, but we've also learned some new details about this case. Prosecutors say if it wasn't for a Yeti cooler, this story would have been much different. A witness took this video right after the pickup truck ran into a group of people picnicking in the park. Police were quick to arrest the driver, 57-year-old Timothy Nielsen. He's now facing 4 counts of attempted murder. The crash happened at 5:15 Saturday evening. Police say the truck intentionally jumped a curb and went up onto the grassy median on Logan Boulevard. Prosecutors described a disturbing chain of events in court this afternoon. They say Nielsen, who lives in the area, told a witness that he was, quote, annoyed with the yuppies on the boulevard who were out there with their dogs. He followed up with, "Watch what I'm going to do." Police say that's when he drove his truck into the group, injuring 4 people. A 42-year-old woman was hit and briefly trapped under the truck. Prosecutors say Nielsen continued to accelerate, but a Yeti cooler lodged under the truck was the only thing stopping it from going any farther. Several people grabbed Nielsen out of the truck, who prosecutors say then pulled out a knife. He was eventually taken down, and once police and paramedics arrived, Nielsen was taken into custody. Nielsen has a criminal history that consists of kidnapping.
Make it clap, clap, clap. She make it clap, clap, clap. She make it. She make it clap, clap, clap. 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 She make it clap. Ride around town with it strap on my lap. Ooh, yeah. She make it clap. I'm tryna grab it, then hit from the back. Tell her drop it down, cause I like that. After I hit, then I be right back. I'm walking the club, man, whip out the rack. I'm blowing on gas, she doing her dance. She making it clap, I'ma have a heart attack. I walk in the club and I'm making it rain with no stacks. She drop it to the ground, she know that it fat. I run through that sack when I thump through the rack. I whip her that dope, but I'm fresh out the trap. Clap, clap, she make it clap, clap, clap. I hit from the back, walk in the club and I thump.
Chicago claimed 7 lives and injured dozens more. The surge in the city coincided with that warmer weather. WGN Sean Lewis live at Chicago Police Headquarters with the latest. Hi, Sean.
Hi there to both of you. You'll hear this time and time again. Chicago Police officially telling us that weather and violence do not correlate in the city of Chicago, though if you look at the numbers, especially this weekend, it tells a different story. The warm weekend weather brought with it a flurry of violence. Across Chicago, gunfire and knife attacks cut short the lives of at least 7 people and injured at least another 46. One of the latest near the United Center at Adams and Sealy. Chicago police working into the early morning hours on Monday. 5 people, all between 20 and 32 years old, were shot as they stood outside. One of them rushed to the hospital in critical condition. This shooting happened just after 11 p.m. Sunday. Police believe the gunshots came from a gray Audi SUV with 3 people inside. On Sunday afternoon, just before 3 o'clock, 2 men were shot here in the 800 block of North Ridgeway. A 40-year-old man survived, but the 34-year-old man was pronounced dead at Mount Sinai Hospital. That shooting about the same time and less than 2 miles from where a 17-year-old boy was shot in the face and killed as he drove in the 4800 block of West Ferdinand. And early Saturday morning, a 35-year-old man was found stabbed in the neck and chest here in the 2600 block of South Christiana. While Area 4 detectives are investigating, no one is yet in custody. Chicago police did
after a very violent weekend. Since just Thursday, at least 22 people were shot, and 4 of those victims died, including a 15-year-old girl. A string of violence adding to a growing trend that we're seeing during the pandemic. CBS 46's Adam Murphy is live at the scene of one of those fatal shootings on Glenwood Avenue in Atlanta. And Adam, residents say that they're fed up with these senseless shootings.
Well, good evening, Rick. I can tell you I've spoken with many people coming and going from the Waffle House in this area who say they are sick and tired of it. The violence continues to get worse, and they feel like nothing is being done to address the issue. Just off Glenwood Avenue near Atlanta's Grant Park, there's a roadside memorial for 15-year-old Diamond Johnson. She was fatally shot during a fight between 2 groups of teenagers Saturday night outside the Waffle House in the Glenwood Park shopping plaza.
It's heartbreaking, especially hearing of a young teen being killed. So now we definitely have to stop the violence and take some type of accountability.
About 3 hours later, outside Artisans Bar and Gallery on Peachtree Street, there was another shooting stemming from a dispute inside the bar. 1 man was wounded, and 22-year-old Antonio Sykes was killed. 4 other shootings happened in the city of Atlanta between Saturday evening and early Sunday morning, for a total of 6 shootings, leaving 2 dead and 10 wounded, just in a 6-hour time span. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms addressed the crime trend during her State of the City address a few weeks ago.
But just as we have overcome challenges in the past, Atlanta will get to the other side of this COVID crime wave, and we will get this violence under control.
Most recent crime stats show there have been 208 shootings in Atlanta this year, up 51% from last year, and 40 homicides, a 60% increase from 2020.
And we are committed to putting an additional 250 new officers on the street during the next fiscal year.
Now, this is no doubt turning into a political issue as this is an election year for mayor. I can tell you that Council President Felicia Moore, also running for mayor, issued this statement late to me today saying that she is angry and frustrated with the lack of acknowledgement by the administration that they are in a crisis and the numerous crime plans that have been released have not helped. I will say this, we have word from the mayor's office that Mayor Bottoms intends to address this issue during a news briefing tomorrow. Some more to come on this developing story and troubled crime throughout the city of Atlanta.
Be careful. Come on. What you talking about? Damn, bitch, you up. Give me up. Get me up, man. Bitch, get me up. Cause I'm gonna fuck you up.
No, come on, wait.
Chill. No, she kicked me. I see that. Bitch, what what you and they got me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna press charges on you. Call the
I
cops.
said be careful, you by the trash.
No.
I said be
You
careful.
kicked this bitch.
I said be careful.
Bitch.
Police need help finding this person caught on camera brutally attacking someone along Tapscott Street near Blake Avenue in Brownsville. We're not going to show the full attack on video, but after trying to walk away, the victim is punched in the back of the head, knocked to the ground, and has his head stomped on at least 14 times. He is in the hospital in serious condition. Anyone with information is asked to call NYPD's Crime Stoppers hotline at 800.
I signed up for this. Hey, watch out, watch out. Don't touch me.
No, he loves you.
Scam. I want to look like you. Scam.
Tonight, a young mother gunned down and her daughter in the hospital after a shooting in Southwest Miami-Dade.
Local 10's Leanne Motorhone is live now at the scene now with what we're learning about the victim tonight. Leanne.
And that child is said to be in stable condition, but her mother is now dead, gunned down just steps from where I'm standing. Now police are trying to find her killer. Miami-Dade police are asking for the community's help after a young mother was gunned down in Southwest Miami-Dade. Police identified the victim as 24-year-old LaShante Jones. The woman's 3-year-old daughter also hospitalized. Sources telling Local 10 she was grazed by a bullet.
We're trying to figure out what was the motive here. We're trying to figure out what caused this type of senseless violence.
Police say it happened around 3:30 Monday afternoon.
Well, about 50 million Americans across the central and southeast U.S. are in the path of severe storms tonight. The weather has spawned nearly 24 tornadoes, which have been spotted from Mississippi to South Carolina. Here's CBS's Jesse Mitchell.
Powerful tornadoes tore through Mississippi. This one seen from a drone.
About 10 minutes before this happened, I got us in the bathroom, me and my little girl and my husband.
More than a dozen were reported overnight. The violent storms ripped apart roofs, knocked down trees and power lines, making some neighborhoods inaccessible.
The damage was kind of made navigating the neighborhood a maze, and I couldn't even get to the street that I live on after everything had taken place.
Daybreak shed light on the destruction in Calhoun County as more tornadoes were reported from Kentucky to South Carolina. Even a rare tornado reported southwest of Atlanta, leaving a trail of scattered debris.
I was overwhelmed. I couldn't understand. I had never seen nothing like this before.
Back in Tupelo, Terrell Pulliam's roof was partially torn off.
It came around here for about 30 seconds, and then that was it.
He was huddled in this bathroom with 12 people when the storm hit.
I'm blessed that everybody did not get hurt or anything like that. So it could have been worse. Could have been worse.
And Nora, these are dangerous storms that we're talking about. There was one fatality confirmed in Georgia. Here in Mississippi, the crews are hard at work along this street, and you can see they're just dealing with damage, and that is something.
We're going to turn now to a shocking announcement that seemed to come out of nowhere. Bill and Melinda Gates, among the richest couples in the world, are splitting after 27 years of marriage. CBS's Ben Tracy on this billionaire's breakup.
From Microsoft back to society.
It was a match made at Microsoft, and now it's over. In a statement on Twitter today, Bill and Melinda Gates said after a great deal of thought and a lot of work on our relationship, we have made the decision to end our marriage. The couple first met when Melinda Gates was a marketing manager at Microsoft, the company Bill Gates co-founded.
I could sense that he was a bit interested, and but it took him quite a few months before he finally asked me out.
The couple have 3 children and for the past 2 decades have been a powerful force in philanthropy, giving away more than $50 billion.
It became something that, we get to do together. We're, partners in crime.
In 2000, they started the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to address issues of poverty and disease around the world. More recently, Bill Gates has shifted his focus to tackling climate change. In their statement, the couple says, "We will continue our work together at the foundation, but we no longer believe we can grow together as a couple in this next phase of our lives." This comes just 2 years after another billionaire tech titan, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, announced his split from his wife of 25 years, Mackenzie. Bill Gates is the 4th richest person in the world, worth approximately $130 billion. The financial details of the divorce are not yet known. Ben Tracy, CBS
News. Dave Gonzalez is on the ground there at Hawthorne, where police are investigating a deadly shooting. This is a live look at the scene at El Segundo and Crenshaw Boulevards. Around 10:45 last night, officers responded to a call of shots fired in the area. Look at that vehicle there. And when they got to the scene, they found evidence of a shooting, but no victim. A short time later, they received a call of a traffic collision nearby. When officers arrived on the scene, they found a man who had been shot in the chest. He was rushed to the hospital but later died as a result. Police are trying to find out if he may have been the victim of the shooting.
This is investigating the death of a woman who passed away several days after getting her second Moderna vaccine. Family says the mother and grandmother was healthy before she got her shot and that her sudden death came as a shock. Eyewitness News reporter Jessica DeNova has more.
This Orange County son worries his mom died because of her second Moderna COVID-19 vaccine dose. A conversation with staff at the OC Coroner's Office about Griselda Flores' death raised red flags for Richard Cardenas and his family.
They made it seem like this was not the first call that they had.
OC Assistant Chief Deputy Coroner Brad Olson says that's right. Olson tells Eyewitness News a handful of deaths, including Griselda's, are under investigation because they happened 1 to 3 days after the person got a COVID-19 vaccine dose.
And that means our doctors want to run some additional studies, whether it be toxicology, micros, or just a review of medical records to see their treatment course and look for those other underlying conditions. But we haven't come to the conclusion yet that the vaccine had anything directly to do with the causes of death.
Cardenas says his mom was a healthy, outgoing, hardworking mother and grandmother.
Happy, smiling, always, telling me she loves me.
The day after her second shot on April 14th at a CVS in Orange, Griselda complained of the expected side effects, chills, body aches, and a fever.
She looked really pale though, really pale. And she just said she was tired and she was going to go home and sleep.
The day after her second shot on April 14th at a CVS in Orange, Griselda complained of the expected side effects, chills, body aches, and a fever.
She looked really pale though, really pale. And she just said she was tired and she was gonna go home and sleep.
2 days after her second dose, Griselda's family says they found her dead in her room.
I'm very, very worried about public safety because now it's just like if my mom.
Out of Sherman Oaks after a gunman opened fire at a bar, shooting 3 people. It all happened at the Woodman Bar on Ventura Boulevard, and that's where KCAL9's Joy Benedict is live with the latest on this investigation. And Joy, you've been talking about it's the 3rd Sunday in a row where you've been covering gun violence.
Yeah, gun violence in a very public place, Amy, which is, of course, very startling to folks who live here in this community. And this morning, on this particular day, we are here in Sherman Oaks at the base of the valley where that's exactly what happened. Gunfire rang out at a very popular sports bar. I want to step out of the way so you can see where I am right now. I'm in front of the Woodman on Ventura Boulevard. You can see we have a lot of broken bottles, broken glass on the ground, and, of course, some debris as the police department shut off this area very early this morning when the bar was still open. Take a look at the video from a few hours ago. It was about 1:30 in the morning. We are told that for whatever reason, gunfire rang out outside the bar. Some of those, I'm told a stray bullet may have gone inside the Woodman at the time. That 3 people were shot outside here. We are told 1 person is in custody this morning, but they are still investigating this particular shooting. But this is not the first shooting we have been talking about. I mean, crime has been on the minds and the conversations of the Los Angeles Police Department throughout the pandemic. We are told year to date there have been more than 450 shootings. Certainly alarming numbers. That is more than a 70% increase, and quite frankly, information that made members of the police commission gasp earlier this week when Police Chief Michael Moore explained to them what was going on.
But what we're focused on is, and what we're always focused most primarily, is our violent crime instances where the increase in numbers of victim shots, 445 victims shot year to date versus 257 last year. Yeah. That's 188 additional shooting victims, which is a 73% increase.
Certainly very hard to hear, and take a look at these numbers that I just got from the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office when it comes to homicides in previous years, year to date, as we have had. I mean, if you look at just the increases, there was a 200-person increase in homicides from 2019 to 2020 with 200 more people killed, and on 2021 we are on track to surpass that number once again. So that just gives you a few numbers to try and explain how dangerous and how deadly this year has been for so many on the streets. It's not just this neighborhood or that neighborhood.
The suspect, who was taken into custody 3 months ago following the killing of 5 homeless men, has again been detained after 4 street people were attacked in the corporate area on Sunday. The men were injured after being hit with an iron bar about 2 o'clock in the morning. Head of the Jamaica Constabulary Force Corporate Communications Unit, Senior Superintendent Stephanie Lindsay, told our news center that investigators are trying to determine if the attacks are connected.
Yeah, looking at the similarities, based on where they are with the investigation, they have 1 person in custody that they suspect could be a part of it. As a matter of fact, the person that they now have in custody is the same person that was taken into custody when we had the previous death. However, they did not get sufficient evidence and supporting material to show that they could even charge him in that case, so they had to release him. Now they have the situation, so based on evidence and information, he was taken into custody and they are going through some processes to see what might come out of this investigation.
2 of the victims in yesterday's attack were injured on Tom Redcomb Drive, 1 on Ivy Green Crescent, and the 4th.
The North Terminal, inside 2 passengers in some kind of altercation. A police report was taken. It doesn't quite compare to what you're about to see. 2 weeks ago, 2 passengers in an all-out brawl. They, of course, garnered quite an audience, and one happened to be recording. Take a look.
Oh, shoot. And that happened here.
Wow, and no one's stopping it? Earlier this month, 4 gates down from a TSA security checkpoint, a brawl breaks out outside of a Spirit Airlines gate.
Did you say outside of Spirit?
Yeah.
That's why. Hey, that is a linebacker. I feel like he should have picked somebody his own size because he literally tore him up.
A spokesperson for Detroit Metro Airport says an issue on board a flight turned into a fight once they got off.
We're too grown to be outside acting like this. We're falling and rolling around the ground. People got kids. They're all traveling. We're trying to make it home safe.
The video goes on for about a minute before passengers break it up. It's unclear at what point an official responded. The suspect was cited for assault, but the spokesperson we talked to didn't say who he was in the video.
I know their job is pretty tough. I've done security before too, but somebody should have been there trying to break it up, trying to keep the peace, something.
It's the second time this year chaos captured on video at the North Terminal. Oh my God. In January, Spirit Airlines passengers attacked employees, upset for having to verify their bag size. 2 employees were hurt, one went to the hospital.
Everybody's in the house, and then you let them out. You know what happens when you let people out of the house? They go crazy. They don't know how to act sometimes.
2 similar situations in Florida this month. And in Miami, 3 simultaneous fights between passengers started over an issue about standby seats.
I guess it's just happening everywhere recently. People are, since they're pent up in their house, they're coming out strong, I guess.
3 of the 4 videos we highlighted in that story all involve Spirit Airlines in one way or another. We reached out to the company and did not hear back in time for this story. Reporting live, Detroit Metro Airport, Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
But Jessica, other passengers broke up the fight this time. But what about security? Are there enough officers on duty to keep everyone safe?
We've been out here.
Watch out, bad man, I play with the clitoris. Then baby, cock up your left foot, me fuck your right. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Me fuck your outside, rep on the bike. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Me want your pum pum more than one night. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Give me some head when me pull up on the light. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. She tell me she honey and she want me. She the woman that wait for me. She send me a video of the pussy and I tell me say I feel me. Say she want me go inside it, me go inside it. Jaws a fly away, fuck her on the beach, let me touch private. Do a we just come and go listen irate. I wanna be low like I'm at my rate. So baby, cock up your left foot, me fuck your right. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Me fuck your outside, rep on the bike. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Me want your pum pum more than one night. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Give me some head when me pull up on the light. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Y'all like papi make you feel alright. Open your legs to the long steel pipe. When you're hardy and you invite. Make your pussy wet up all night. She dress up in a robe and come out, yeah. Big and my balls in a you mouth. Program your body like remote. Pretty and tight pussy girl me a promote. She tell me she honey and she want me. She the woman that wait for me. She send me a video of the pussy and I tell me say I feel me. Say she want me go inside it, me go inside it. Jaws a fly away, fuck her on the beach, let me touch private. Do a we just come and go listen irate. I wanna be low like I'm at my rate. So baby, cock up your left foot, me fuck your right. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Me fuck your outside, rep on the bike. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Me want your pum pum more than one night. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Give me some head when me pull up on the light. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Pum pum, y'all pum pum like Sizzler. And me easy fi burn out like Drizzler. Y'all cock it up high inna the air. See the balls them for your dribble, yeah. Y'all look cute and your little saw. Come let me hold your arm, feel like a nipple toe. Inna your pum pum a wine and a wiggle up. Watch out, bad man a play with the clitoris. Then baby, cock up your left foot, me fuck your right. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Me fuck your outside, rep on the bike. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Me want your pum pum more than one night. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight. Give me some head when me pull up on the light. Baby, your pussy tight, tell your pussy tight.
6 and only on Local 10, we're hearing from a young woman who was ambushed and attacked outside her own home. The brutal beating leaving her with a broken nose and cheekbone. The savage attack happening at the hands of her own neighbor.
And the helpless victim just released from the hospital, and she's telling a terrifying tale.
Let's get right to Local 10 News anchor Sanela Sabovic live in Wilton Manors with the exclusive. Sanela.
Nicole and Calvin, this was such a savage and brutal attack. The victim was simply trying to help her neighbors move furniture. The next thing she knows, she's being hit repeatedly over the head and body with a 30-inch metal bar.
I lock the doors, but I still don't feel safe. It's just constant, like, terror inside of me.
Maria Krasnova is not only emotionally scarred, but physically. She just got out of the hospital after she was viciously attacked allegedly by her own neighbor.
I have broken nose, a broken cheek. He damaged my nerve in the face, and on top of all that, I have a lot of emotional trauma.
The attack happened Saturday at Wilton House on Andrews Avenue. Crazz says her neighbor Philip Siegel and his roommate asked her to move some furniture, and the next thing she knew, she was getting hit by a 30-inch metal bar. The attack, she says, completely unprovoked.
As soon as I came in, it happened within like seconds, you know, like he was in front of me, and then all I felt was just like a smack to my head.
Crazz was able to run to her neighbor Alejandro Sanchez's house for help.
She was just, I need help. I just got assaulted. I just got hit in the face.
Sanchez and Crazz boyfriend Jacob Rosario confronted Siegel. Rosario would become the next victim, fighting back in self-defense.
I went to see who did this. He's at the door, hits me, and then the altercation happens.
Siegel was arrested and appeared in bond court, at one point asking the judge how Crazz was doing.
She's okay, right? That's all I said. Sir, don't talk about the facts right now. I can't remember any of this. That's a problem.
Crazz believes Siegel knew full well what he was doing. She's seeking justice while thankful to be alive.
I really thought I was gonna die, and now I'm here standing, and that's, like, I'm sad and I'm scared, but I'm really happy.
Florida, Cody and Paige Pettick and their After a fun vacation in Florida, Cody and Paige Pettick and their 2 kids were set to fly back to Des Moines on Sunday. During their layover in St. Louis, their 5-year-old son was struggling to wear his mask. The boy is nonverbal, has autism, and a sensory processing disorder. Dr. Vince Hassel was also flying back to Des Moines. He says people started lobbying to get the boy on board when the Southwest Airlines crew refused.
They weren't going to let this kid on the plane.
After a 24-year-old woman was killed Monday afternoon.
It was heartbreaking to be able to stand with the father and just listen to the pain he was going through.
Loved ones have been making social media posts like this one in memory of LaShante Jones, who we've learned was a mother, a sister, and a TSA agent at Miami International Airport. Jones's 3-year-old daughter was also grazed by a bullet and was in stable condition at Nicholas Children's Hospital. 24 hours later, a crew cleaned up the staircase where Jones was killed. The only other detail police were able to give us is that they're looking for a dark-colored 4-door Nissan they believe the shooter pulled up in. As detectives were working that scene Monday evening, more gunfire could be heard only blocks away. An arrest form for 18-year-old Dyron Kelson says he and another teen allegedly fired more than 80 rounds at a home nearby, hitting a car and other things, but fortunately, no one was hurt.
CI has now arrested a Morrisville woman in connection with a fatal shooting in Durham. 39-year-old Natisha Page being charged with murder and misdemeanor hit and run in the death of 27-year-old Anthony Marsh Jr. Officers found Marsh shot in his car just more than 2 weeks ago. You can find that breaking news update and any others at CBS17.com.
Schools taking an extra step to prevent COVID-19 in the classroom by bringing shots to the students.
And starting today, the district is offering these vaccinations at high schools over the next 8 days. Local 10's Hatzel Vela is live with more. Hatzel, how's it going out there?
It's going well, Christy. I can tell you the plan here in Broward County is to get to 5 to 6 schools a day for the next 2 weeks because they're hoping to get to as many students as possible. Valencia Ely High School is one of a handful of schools where Broward Schools is launching a new vaccine program starting today. This is video the school district provided to us from Deerfield Beach High School, another school participating. Inside, you can see some students taking advantage of the service.
It allows the parents to feel at ease that the students are vaccinated. We're trying to get more and more students here on campus, obviously for the academic piece, but also for the extracurricular piece as well.
Broward school officials say for the next 2 weeks, the Broward Health Department will have staff at 5 to 6 schools on a daily basis. And it's not just limited to students. Staff and parents can also take a...
You're going to risk your life, potentially, for that.
Neighbors in Iron Creek now on the lookout after a camera caught a man lurking in the neighborhood just off Memorial and I-35 in Edmond.
And you can hear him wrestling around the shutter.
He's also seen peering into homes.
Felt violated that someone is lurking around our property.
Kevin Coy and his neighbors began sharing surveillance video. That's when they discovered the man took a gas can from someone's yard.
I could only guess that 1, he was going to steal it, or 2, if he got caught, he could make up, fabricate a story.
Fast forward to Sunday night. The man returns. This time, Coy confronted him.
But I said, can I help you? He refers to our house and says, I'm here to see my friend at that house. And of course, I know he's not, he is making a story up at this point.
The mystery, a transgender woman shot and killed as she sat outside a fast food restaurant in West Houston. Tonight, her family is desperate for answers. KPRC2's Devin Clark is live with the story tonight. Devin, investigators are still searching for the shooter and a motive in this case.
They are, Dominique, and police still are not sure who killed Iris Santos or why. And her mom believes that she was targeted because she's transgender. Even though that's not certain, here at the Montrose Center, anti-violence specialists say that violence against trans people is a problem they see far too often.
Why do that? Why? It's my question.
The pain runs deep for Maria Carreon and her family, reeling over the loss of her daughter.
Right to Local 10's Roy Ramos live now with what we know so far. Roy.
Calvin and Nicole, well, we do know the victim in this case, a 39-year-old man, and I just got off the phone with Miami Gardens police. They tell me this was an incident between an uncle and his nephew that led up to shots fired, but still no word on who opened fire on the other. As you mentioned, still a very active scene out here. You can still see homicide investigators questioning witnesses.
Damaging gusts and flash floods. CBS's Omar Villafranca is in Texas tonight.
It's like a tornado. Strong storms pounded the South for a second day in a row, bringing severe weather to parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and hammering Texas with heavy rain, hail, and several tornadoes. Holy cow. Like this one southwest of Fort Worth. In Waxahachie, witnesses say another tornado cut across a busy interstate, sideswiping several big rigs, forcing drivers to scramble to help people pinned by the wreckage.
After the storm blew over the highway, it came this way and came across a residential area. You can see it flipped this mobile home over. Around 36 homes and businesses were damaged by the storm.
Ellis County Judge Todd Little.
Many barns, many things that were just, fortunately, no human life was taken, and we feel blessed for that right now.
8 people were treated at the hospital for injuries.
The National Weather Service says the tornado that came through here was an EF2 with winds up to 120 miles an hour, and this is the kind of damage an EF2 can do. You can see the side of this house was ripped off. But let me show you what 120 mile per hour winds can do. This is a 2x4 that impaled this trailer. Now, 3 people and their 3 dogs rode.
We begin with some breaking news here in San Francisco. Police investigating a stabbing that happened within the past hour at 4th and Stockton. Now, we've got some videos just coming in from the scene. Witnesses are telling us a man clutching a knife was walking down Market Street. They say he casually approached a bus stop and began stabbing 2 women. Both were Asian women. Witnesses telling us one was elderly, the other in her 30s. Both were taken to a hospital. No word on their conditions at this hour. We are into a hospital. No word on their conditions at this hour. We are told the suspect just walked away. We'll have more on this, obviously, as it comes in.
Yes, Steve and Heather, the man killed this morning has been identified as 27-year-old Ashton Pink. Mesquite police say 2 officers responded to the call, a male and a female officer. Both fired their weapons, and we're also told that both have more than 20 years of experience in law enforcement.
This morning I was woken up by a voice saying, "Don't do it, don't do it," and then you hear 4 shots. You just hear boom, 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 boom.
Some residents at the Audubon Park Apartments on Northwest Drive say they heard the gunshots and screaming outside and rushed to see what was happening.
There was a lady screaming, and there was a guy laying on the ground, and the paramedics looked like they were trying to resuscitate him.
It started with a call to 911 around 7:45 this morning. Sergeant Mark Bradford says the dispatcher could hear a violent commotion.
In the background, we could hear screaming, and it sounded like somebody being assaulted. The call was ultimately disconnected, but our dispatchers were able to trace the number back by prior calls and locate an address.
When the two responding officers arrived, police say the assault victim told them the suspect, Ashton Pink, was armed with a knife. Police say there was a confrontation between the officers and Pink at the side of an apartment building, and that he charged at the officers with a knife and a club.
At that time, they used force and they fired their weapons, and the suspect was struck. The officers attempted to do life-saving techniques.
This picture of Pink is from an arrest in Dallas County, where public records show he had.
And tonight, the suspect in a vicious attack on two older Asian women is in custody, the latest in a wave of violence against the Asian community. KPIX5's Betty Yu is live with some late-breaking details. Betty?
Ken, Tenderloin police officers arrested that suspect 2 hours after the attacks. Tonight I spoke exclusively with the grandson of the 85-year-old victim. He says that at this hour his grandmother is still in surgery at SF General and the family is praying that she pulls through. This is 85-year-old Chui Fong Ing. Her grandson tells me she just finished grocery shopping in Chinatown and was waiting for the bus on Market Street near 4th when she was attacked.
She was on the Njuda, or going onto the Njuda, waiting for it. And I guess she was attacked from behind and stabbed through the arm and into the chest. And they had to keep her that way and strap her tight until they got to the hospital in the ambulance.
Market Street, typically busy with pedestrians and car traffic, was the scene of a double stabbing just before 5 p.m. Police say the other victim was an Asian woman in her 60s.
She didn't know the other victim, and they were both at the bus stop and both stabbed there. I think the other lady was stabbed first.
A 54-year-old San Francisco resident was arrested on Eddy Street. The attack happened in front of several witnesses.
The assailant essentially just walked up to their victim, stabbed them, and very casually walked away in broad daylight.
This witness didn't want to show her face, but saw the man moments before the attack.
He got a knife on his right-hand side, and he was holding really tight, like he wanted to do something. And before you know, he was behind this lady with a black jacket, and you see all the feathers came out, so I'm sure he sliced her, and then she screamed.
You just don't think it's going to happen so close to home until it does, so you just got to be super aware of your loved ones and, just take care of them as much as you can, even if it's inconvenient for you. You got to go and, help them get groceries, do whatever they need to do, but you just got to be with them.
And Drew also added that his grandmother's surgery has been going on for more than 2 hours tonight. He also added that his grandmother has lived in San Francisco for some 50 years, and nothing like this has ever happened to her. Ken?
This is just some of the video from a nearly 3-hour-long standoff. Police officers responded to reports of a woman firing shots into the water at MacArthur Park.
Armed with a .45 caliber handgun shooting at the birds. Suspect was walking southbound in the middle of the park near the lake.
Now we're blurring the next parts of this video. Officers say 43-year-old Michelle Renee Laricha eventually pointed a gun at them, forcing them to fire several shots at her. Video shows her falling to the ground, then getting back up and walking back and forth on the sidewalk as officers yell at her to get away from the gun. She was eventually arrested and taken to the hospital. Now she's being held on $600,000 bail in jail and is scheduled to make her next court appearance June 11th. There is a use of force investigation.
And we are getting new exclusive surveillance footage of another brutal attack in San Francisco. Now, this one was captured at Gus's Market in Mission Bay on Friday. Check this out. Police say an Asian father who was pushing his 1-year-old child in a stroller was suddenly beaten to the ground. He was hit in the back. He was hit in the head more than a dozen times. Police were patrolling the area and were able to luckily quickly arrest a 26-year-old suspect. That victim tells KPIX5 he's shaken up, but on the mend, and the baby was not hurt.
Task force is investigating an attack involving this woman, and police need help finding her. Investigators say she told a 50-year-old Asian woman to get off her train, saying she did not belong here, and then slapped her in the back of the head. The attack happened April 19th on a southbound D train. Both women got off of the train at the 9th Avenue and Atlantic Avenue station. If you recognize her, call NYPD's Crime Stoppers hotline. The phone number is 1-800-5...
Details on who police are looking for. Sanella.
Well, Calvin and Nicole, as you mentioned, that jogger, she was attacked here on Southwest 92nd Avenue as she was heading northbound. Miami-Dade detectives were here on the scene earlier. They were looking through surveillance video to get a description on this person involved. I do want to take you to video from earlier here in the day. We have some video of detectives combing for clues here. Again, she was exercising here along Southwest 92nd Avenue, close to 66th Street, around 1 this afternoon, when a man apparently drove by her, parked his car, then ran up to her and pushed her. A neighbor that we spoke to says she's disturbed that something like this happened near her community. Her surveillance cameras captured the attack. She saw the video and explains to us what is on it. Take a listen.
The reason why I'm doing this is for all my neighbors. They have to be careful because it's coming from outerwear. The lady's coming just walking normally across the street, and this guy apparently left the car behind and he started running to her. She didn't know. She wasn't expecting. So what I see, right at the corner, he pushed her to the grass, and it looks like she's grabbing something. I don't know what it is. He's grabbing something, and he started running.
So it's unclear what the motive is here. It's unclear if he took something from this woman. Also, we're working to figure out if she was hurt in the attack once we get additional details.
For this man after he sent a couple to the hospital. The husband and wife say he was acting belligerent on a northbound 4 train at the Bowling Green station in Lower Manhattan. The husband got into an argument with him, and they all got off at the East 170th Street and Jerome Avenue station in the Bronx. Police say the man followed the couple down the stairs, punched the husband in the back of the head, stabbed him in his arms and body, and pushed his wife down the stairs when she tried to stop him. If you recognize the man or have any information about
Now, a heartbroken family remembering a young mother gunned down in front of her own daughter.
And tonight, we're getting our first look at her suspected killer as he remains on the run. Local 10's Christian De La Rosa is live in Southwest Miami-Dade. Christian.
We've talked about how this was a hard-working mother, a TSA officer at MIA, and you tonight, you said it, a surveillance picture of the shooter. Keep in mind, this tragedy taking place just day before the Sunday holiday.
She was still in her work uniform. They took her from me.
A grieving mother, days before Mother's Day, LaShonta Jones was 24 years old. She had just got home from work when she was gunned down right next to her 3-year-old daughter.
I haven't even told her mom is gone. Like, how can you explain that to a 3-year-old child? I'll never be able to kiss my baby. I'll never be able to hear my baby laugh, play with her nieces and nephews. That's taken, it's gone.
Jones was murdered Monday around 3 in the afternoon outside her home at the Coral Bay Cove Apartments on Southwest 258th Street and South Dixie Highway. Detectives releasing this surveillance picture of the killer, pointing his weapon at his victim, her little girl, luckily only grazed by a bullet.
But how can you do a 3-year-old child like that? He needs to turn himself in, or somebody need to say so. Somebody to talk. My daughter didn't trouble nobody.
Any little bit of information.
The Rockaway Beach man says he'd just gotten off the A train and was walking up the stairs of the Fulton Center station before looking down at his phone.
Out of the corner of my eye, I see someone coming closer to me, and the guy hauls off and punches me right in the face.
He says the suspect grumbled something and walked away. The railing broke his fall, but the unprovoked attack left him angry.
Everybody riding the subway has to live in fear. The city's out of control. The subways are out of control.
That assault happened around the same time an emotionally disturbed man with a wooden paddle barricaded himself inside a motorman's car on a southbound J train, stopping service for 90 minutes.
The train system hasn't gotten no better, it's gotten worse. And unfortunately, the mentally challenged and the homeless have took over.
These incidents among the at least 4 involving emotionally disturbed people in the subway system Wednesday alone. Overall for 2021, felony assaults on the subway are up 40%. It's a trend reflective of many crimes in the city. New numbers for April show a significant increase across the board. But a mayor spokesperson claims subway crime is at record lows. New statistics
For this man right now, they say stabbed a 50-year-old in the arm with a fork in a seemingly unprovoked attack in Chelsea. It happened April 10th around 2:30 in the afternoon near the corner of 8th Avenue and West 21st Street. He was last seen heading south on 8th Avenue. Anyone with any information is asked to call NYPD's Crime Stoppers hotline. The phone number is...
And we were able to fully staff the store for over a year now.
Jacqueline Childers owns this pizza shop with her husband and parents. She says other businesses in Monroe are having trouble getting people to work and some have closed. It's also an issue for Darren Lee, who just opened Hopscotch and Bourbon in Roseville.
For the last 2 months, I've been looking for and trying to find people, and everybody's content with their unemployment. They're content with the money they're being paid to stay home and not work.
You need to point that and say that, people getting an extra $600 a week is the problem.
Matt Rowling is from the Mike Ilitch School of Business at Wayne.
When I zoomed in. Yo, where's my phone? What the fuck? Oh, you nasty bastards. Oh, shit. I actually can't believe this. Oh my god. I actually can't believe this. And she's just chilling back. Yeah. I'm watching it go down. Oh my god. This is now turned into a serious thing. And get out of the house! It's on fire! Get out of the house! Hurry! Come on, hurry, grab your stuff!
Was the victim walking down Orange Avenue there in the black shirt. Police say when he tried to simply walk through the crowd to get to where he was going, 25-year-old Sean Ingram, seen there against the wall, stopped him, told him he couldn't pass, then eventually pulled his gun and shot him. Now, police arrested Ingram yesterday after seeing him on that video surveillance thanks to a nearby business. They told Ingram and the victim did not have any prior interaction. Investigators tracked down Ingram after knowing him as a witness in a prior case and knowing his whereabouts, but a police detective today broke down talking about the victim and how he was simply minding his own business Sunday morning and how he was a really good father.
His 4-year-old daughter's birthday was the day he was murdered.
Police say this man has been robbing people at gunpoint in Central Park, and they're hoping someone recognizes him from this image or sketch. They believe the same man used a black pistol while on a black bicycle, taking $1,000 from a 55-year-old man.
Tonight of a man as he breaks into someone's home in Escambia County, Florida. This was just minutes before a woman inside shot and killed him. Cody Long tells us why the woman who pulled the trigger is not being charged.
Escambia County Sheriff's Office is investigating this as a stand your ground case. The sheriff says the woman was protecting herself and her family. Porch. You can see the man kicking the front door on James Taylor Lane and screaming at those who are inside. Then the 54-year-old man goes back to kicking in the door. After a few tries, he gets in. The sheriff said once inside, he armed himself with a knife and threatened to harm his children's mother. A woman in a bedroom said she was in fear for her life and shot the man in the head. He died on scene. The man had an active domestic violence injunction filed on him, and the sheriff says when this all happened, the man was on his way to an anger
behind bars after hijacking a person now behind bars after hijacking a Columbia, South Carolina school bus. Full of elementary age kids this morning. The good news, all the kids are safe, and so is the bus driver who managed to keep his cool throughout all of it. The armed person, reportedly a trainee at Fort Jackson. Police say he boarded the bus at one of the stops armed with a rifle, and after a short distance, the suspect left the kids and driver by the side of the road after the kids began asking questions. This all unfolding around 7 this morning. The suspect later ditched the bus and left the rifle and was arrested running through a nearby neighborhood. Take a listen from the Richland County Sheriff's Department describing what was.
On to the worrisome side effects. Governor Ron DeSantis is ending COVID-19 restrictions.
There have been several tense confrontations over masks. Local 10 News reporter Janine Stanwood has more on this troubling trend. Just in the last few days, we've heard of all sorts of things. Arguments, attacks, even a stabbing earlier today, all over a mask.
Calling me the F word, calling me every name in the book, basically.
Watch this customer in red, flailing his arms. Workers here at Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood say he refused to cover his face and went on a verbal rampage.
I politely asked him to put his mask on. He had it hanging. And he just started screaming and yelling.
I told him, I said, we're a small business and we still do require you to wear a mask, so can you please put on a mask?
Earlier this morning in Pembroke Park, a source tells Local 10 there was an altercation in a rideshare over a mask. Deputies say that ended in a stabbing. This comes one day after a man shared this video with us, claiming he was attacked on a Metro mover because he initially did not have his face covered.
One of the women became violent by obstructing my phone out of my hands.
Face-offs over mask wearing seems to be a sign of the times.
It's disgusting. What do you people mean?
This was a mask dispute at a Lowe's in March. But with some rules lifting and changing guidelines, it's easy not to know when to cover up. Under federal order, you do have to wear a mask on public transportation. Private businesses can make their own rules.
We're better off than we were a year ago at this time, and we'll be better off next year at this time. But in the meantime, we just need to respect one another.
Most business owners tell us they are willing to work with
The FAA sees a sharp turbulence in the air as the FAA sees a sharp increase in reports of unruly airline passengers.
CBS 2's Corey James has more on these troubling flight fights.
I would say disappoints me.
Everybody wants to, do whatever they want.
Most travelers we spoke with say when it comes to unruly passengers on planes, they have never experienced it firsthand.
For as much as I fly, I would have thought with hearing that, I would have witnessed more myself, but I've really never seen it.
But Renisha Samuels, who does not fly often, says a situation like this has happened to her.
I felt as if, what if she's about to do something crazy and we're up here in the air and I cannot get out? What's going to happen?
The FAA released new numbers that show since February, the agency has received approximately 1,300 unruly passenger reports. 260 of those cases have been identified as potential violations, and enforcement action has been taken on nearly 20 of them.
That is the reality of the world when it comes to aviation.
Kristen Belton was a flight attendant for Delta Airlines for 5 years. During her time in the air and on the ground, unruly passengers would come around
1 out of every 30 flights in a week.
Belton tells us she once had someone attack her over their suitcase not fitting in the overhead bin, similar to what happened on this Southwest flight bound for New York back in April.
He went off, and the ending result was that he didn't make it on that flight because there were 2 people who were in that conversation. Only one of us had to be there, and it was me.
And sometimes they are arrested, like 28-year-old Trinasia Campbell. Authorities say she punched a flight attendant mid-air last Sunday after her trash was not picked up on a flight from Miami to JFK.
I didn't hit a flight attendant.
You didn't hit her?
Nope.
Then why are they saying that you did? We tried pressing her about the incident, but the Brooklyn woman who covered her entire face kept walking to avoid our questions. American Airlines, meanwhile, has banned her from any future flights. And it just so happened an off-duty NYPD officer was on the plane that Campbell was on and restrained her until they landed. As for the flight attendant, a criminal complaint says she suffered bruises, scrapes, and a strained neck. She did receive medical evaluation here, but refused additional treatment. At JFK International Airport, Corey James, CBS 2 News.
Of a brutal attack outside a Houston convenience store. Police say a man was beaten with a brick, robbed, and shot by a group of people. They say some of them believed to be teenagers. Jason Miles just spoke with the man about what happened. He's live outside the store with this exclusive interview this afternoon. Jason?
Hey there, Lynn. Yeah, fortunately, the victim was shot at and not shot. That's good for him, but he is still very shaken up. HPD just releasing surveillance video from this incident. The victim believes he was targeted after buying some of these. There was nothing friendly about the victim's recent visit to this Amigo Mart.
God said not today.
The government employee doesn't want to be identified because of his work, but says he walked across Chimney Rock from where he lives to grab some scratch-off lottery tickets. It was still daylight on a Thursday last month when Houston police say this group of young people, 3 males and 2 females, jumped him soon after he exited the store.
The one on the right hit me in the back of the head with a brick.
The attack happened out of view of surveillance cameras, but they did catch the suspects inside and outside the store. The victim says one of the guys fired a shot from a handgun, which barely missed him after getting hit with a brick.
I'm 2 or 3 feet from him, but steadily moving back, telling him, stop this mess, stop this chaos. And he took the shot.
As you can see in the video, one of the young men wanted for the attack is wearing a black hoodie with security written on the back. He and the others are seen driving away in a white Honda that turned out to be stolen. taken from a location on Eldridge Parkway the day before the convenience store attack, and then recovered with possibly stolen electronics inside a few days later at a Katy address. The victim suspects his lottery tickets may have been the target, but his cell phone was also stolen.
You gotta be aware of what's going on around you at all times.
We often don't show juvenile suspects, but it's possible these are older, and they're wanted for more than one crime. What is your message to them?
They're gonna...
And right now at 6, it has happened again. Another victim followed and robbed in an area where many Houstonians shop and dine.
We're talking about the Galleria area. This new case we are learning about happened in the River Oaks district. There have been several robberies like these in the past few months.
And the frequency of these crimes is really putting people on edge. KPRC2's Courtney Zabowski spoke with this new robbery victim only on 2. Courtney, that man was just enjoying a night out, and then he was ambushed.
Yeah, in the parking garage, and the victim says he was followed here from somewhere else. He thinks that the suspects waited in the parking lot for him to finish dinner before they robbed him. It was supposed to be a night of dinner and drinks.
If they follow me, they watch me.
It was Sunday, March 21st around 5 p.m. Stanley, who we are only identifying by his first name, was with a friend. They had just left a restaurant here at the River Oaks district and were returning to the parking garage. But the 3 people parked in the gray Volkswagen Jetta next to them were waiting.
The door slung open, and he pointed a gun, and he was like, give me your watch. And so I hold my hands up like this.
Stanley handed over his $16,000 watch, and then...
So he said, get on your knees. So I got on my knees.
They wanted cash. Stanley is just one of the victims recently targeted, followed, and robbed. As KPRC2 previously reported, on April 23rd, a couple had just left that same complex when police believed they were followed to their Tanglewood home. 2 armed men stole the man's watch and shot him in the face. And that's the sound of gunfire from April 5th in the Afton Oaks neighborhood near the Galleria. Police believe 2 people were followed from the mall and robbed at gunpoint. And what did they steal? A watch. And again, as KPRC2 reported earlier this week, another armed robbery at a shopping center near Westheimer and Kirby. 2 men robbed a man of his watch while people were eating nearby.
I'm hoping they get caught because, like a lot of us, we work hard for our stuff.
Stuff that so far these suspects have gotten away with. And the River Oaks district says it has increased security.
I think there's a full moon tonight, but a lot is happening. We have more breaking news. A wild scene unfolding moments ago after a crash in South LA.
Well, Desmond Shaw is overhead in Sky 9 to show us what happened. Des.
Well, Pat and Jeff, we had a crash, and then the fists started flying on Figueroa. We're in South LA, Figueroa, near Slauson. A really crazy crash here. You see 2 overturned vehicles, one in the street, one over here on the sidewalk. A pole got knocked down. Incredibly, it doesn't seem that anyone was seriously injured. You can see LA City Fire. They're tending to somebody, but they haven't rushed anybody to the hospital. We've got to show you the earlier video that we just happened to capture. Some tempers began to flare between a couple of people, perhaps, who were involved in the crash, and they got into a pretty nasty little physical altercation. LAPD had to separate them, and they actually have more units respond just to keep them apart. So a big scene unfolding here with this investigation on Figueroa.
Police say this person pulled a knife on a 42-year-old woman in the Bronx and stole $27 in cash. They're hoping someone recognizes him. The victim was walking up the stairs to her apartment building on East 168th Street and Grand Concourse. That was around 8:15 at night when she says the man came up to her with a knife. Anyone with any information is asked to call NYPD's Crime Stoppers hotline. The phone number is 1-
is here with her family's message for others. Shannon? This seemed to happen so suddenly. Last week, Dakota Morgan was a perfectly healthy 15-year-old freshman at Bolingbrook High School who excelled in school and athletics. Now her parents are making funeral arrangements. A little more than a week after her 15th birthday, Dakota Morgan started feeling sick.
Sunday, we were out early, and she called us and said that she woke up feeling dizzy and weak, and she was coughing on the phone.
This was unusual for the Bolingbrook High School freshman. Her mother, Crystal Morgan, said Dakota had been complaining of headaches for the past 2 weeks, but her parents said she had no pre-existing conditions, was a stellar student, and a naturally gifted athlete.
So she played softball, and they won the championship.
She made the All-Star team.
She made the All-Star team. She was pitching. Like, she never did it. She was just an athlete. She could pick up anything and just do it.
Over the weekend, though, her parents noticed a change.
She just wasn't doing good. She started she was just too tired for me, and a cough and then a fever. So probably about 5 o'clock, I said, I'm going to get you a COVID test because I'm getting kind of worried. I think you might have COVID.
On Sunday, Dakota tested positive for COVID-19. By Monday, her health started to decline, so Morgan took Dakota to Central DuPage Hospital. By 3 Tuesday morning, Dakota's parents said she was gone.
She was perfectly healthy.
Just her heart
She was perfectly healthy.
She was perfectly healthy, and then she got COVID, and
it took her.
It took her.
When they told me my baby was gone, I fell on the floor. I fell on the floor and I cried and I cried and I screamed. I just couldn't believe it. And the doctor fell on the floor with me and cried with me and held me.
Dakota's parents just want people to know that this virus is not gone and that children are not immune. They're hopeful the vaccine can soon help prevent this from happening to other families.
As soon as it's available to the babies, I think that they should do it. Do it because you just never know. I didn't expect this.
You never knew.
And she was healthy. And they, I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like I was robbed. I was robbed.
Dakota's parents say there will be a balloon release for their daughter this Saturday. That will take place 5:30 Saturday evening at Anna Reno Community Center in Bolingbrook.
All right, Shannon, appreciate that very much. Thank you. Well, there is controversy.
Police say this man pulled out a sharp object and slashed a New York City Parks employee across the face and chest. It happened after they got into an argument around 2:45 in the afternoon Sunday on Jerome Avenue near East 22nd Street. The Parks employee was taken to the hospital for treatment. If you recognize this man, call NYPD's Crime Stoppers hotline at 800.
We begin this evening with a gruesome story of a Clarendon teenager who was attacked and stabbed through the neck. It's a miracle she survived the ordeal. The attack on the 16-year-old girl from Maypen happened at her home on Tuesday. But while she has survived so far, her condition is such that she is now in dire need of blood. Cody and Barrett has her story.
Shattered glass and blood everywhere is what one mother saw when she arrived at this house in Maypen, Clarendon. It's understood that the teen lives with her father and was home alone around 1 p.m. when a man known to her came to the house and engaged her in a conversation before attempting to strangle her. He then broke a glass table and used a piece to stab her in the side of her neck.
Eh? Tell me if them don't have a mother and then don't have a father. Where them come from? You know, no belly pain, them come from down here. If you do like a thing like that to her, cause she don't do them nothing. He don't give them no arm. And a boy them when me a hear say, me feed. Me give them me food for eat and then drink and then see man want cut her throat.
Before fleeing, he also took a TV that was in the house. The teen managed to walk to the main road seeking help when a man driving a motorbike assisted her to hospital.
And then Michelle said, come and see her. I said, don't talk, just keep still. And he said, no help. And the guy said, I call ambulance to come pick her up. And none of them don't come. Them don't come. So I want to know like this. How is an accident happen like this in Jamaica? And nobody don't come. Then if the guy never come, how we manage him is that dead girl over here?
Her mother says when she was called to the Maypen hospital, the sight of her daughter was unbearable.
So when we see her on the stretcher, all I have to move because I don't know if a knife or a buckle because I feel frustrated and I cannot look on her.
She's also in need of blood. Ms. Winter is appealing to those who can donate.
Man, that shit sound like a hammer. Them Jones like that? Yeah. I'm selling this tape for $5.99. Oh, she's going to I got a call my brother. That shit put him down.
It's being done to keep them safe. CBS 2's Jenna DeAngelis is live in East Harlem with more tonight. Jenna.
Dana, this year there have already been 200 more shootings than there were by this time last year. So many people we spoke to say they're sick and tired of worrying if they're going to be caught in the crossfire while out in their community. Kevin Romero shoots hoops all the time at Governor's Playground in the Bronx, the same place children play, and where there was a deadly shooting Thursday night.
It could be one of my friends, it could be one of my family members. Puts the area on alert, you know, to always have to watch over your shoulder.
This shooting was one of 10 Thursday, according to the NYPD.
They're doing CPR, mommy.
The chaos captured in people's windows day and night in Brooklyn. This shooting blocks from where State Senator Zellner Myrie lives. He went to the scene on Hawthorne Street.
The same way that we have marshaled every resource that we have to eradicate the effects of COVID-19 is the same way we need to marshal every resource we have to get rid of the public health crisis that is gun violence.
He's among state leaders pushing for legislation, including holding the gun industry accountable and banning ghost guns, detailed at a virtual news conference held by New Yorkers Against Gun Violence.
Every day seems as though we're losing another friend to gun violence.
According to the NYPD, there have been 437 shootings this year compared to 237 in the same time frame last year. The NYPD's chief of patrol on efforts to combat this.
We're targeting 100 blocks that's been identified by the highest rate of gun violence committed. We're taking 200 officers from administrative positions and putting them out in a patrol function.
Mayor de Blasio cutting the ribbon at a basketball court at Wagner Houses, part of Safe Summer NYC, to combat gun violence.
We want our children to have positive alternatives.
People are saying they're walking around looking over their shoulder. What's being done? What's your message to people?
Exactly the kind of thing we're doing. We're investing in communities, pure violence movement, community patrols, police working with communities, more police where we need them in the right places, and it works. It's worked every time, and it's going to work again now. This is the community engagement, really, but out there on the street all across New York City, you have police officers out there tonight engaging, going towards.
Breaking news tonight, Wilson police make an arrest in the stabbing death of a teenager. Tajaya Applewhite is charged with the murder of 18-year-old Trinity Williams. She remains locked up with no bond. Williams was stabbed to death on Ward Boulevard Monday night. There was a large crowd of people in the parking lot between Westview Lanes and Sammy's convenience store when officers arrived. Police did not say what led up to that stabbing.
This Southern Indiana woman is facing child neglect charges after police say she let her daughter's lights get so bad she nearly died. 26-year-old Cheyenne Singh of Scottsburg was arrested on Tuesday on 3 felony counts of neglect of a dependent. According to court documents, police were called after her 4-year-old daughter was brought to the hospital with a severe lice infestation. Doctors said it was a nearly fatal case because the lice had fed off of her for so long. The girl was so sick she could not walk.
Times Square is now officially on lockdown. Horrifying moments in this mecca of tourism as people have just been gathering and running away from the apparent shooting that happened around 44th and 7th just before 5 o'clock this evening. We were actually moments getting ready to go live for our 5 o'clock live shot when we saw crowds of people running from the heart of Times Square heading north on 7th up towards 45th, 46th Streets, and they were mass people running away from what is this apparent shooting.
We received a call of an incident that occurred inside the mall, right in front of the Hugo Boss area. Two groups of individuals started fighting. One group, an individual displayed a weapon. The other group, another individual pulled out a weapon and actually used it. We have 3 people who are injured.
It is the kind of video that makes you furious. An armed robber is seen attacking a helpless business owner who's just trying to make a living.
Yeah, tonight, the 64-year-old victim is talking to us about what happened and hoping this video leads to an arrest. Grace White has more on the surveillance video, and we want to tell you and warn you, the video's graphic. Grace?
The only good thing about this business owner says he was alone. His wife normally works with him. They've been in business in the area for more than 20 years and have had break-ins, but nothing like this.
Considering what happened to me, I consider myself blessed.
The video is hard to watch and even harder for Haas Garadape to share with his family.
It was more difficult for me my family to go through that experience.
On Tuesday morning, he was in his office in South Houston checking email. He runs a car wash on Telephone Road and sells used cars on the side. There was a knock at the door. He thought it was a customer. The man asked about the price of a car, but then it quickly turned.
He reached it and he pulled the gun right on my head.
But from the surveillance video released by Houston police, you can see the beating doesn't stop there.
He got a crowbar. He started hitting me as many times. So I'm going like this, trying not to protect my head.
He was tied up and gagged while the armed robber ransacked his office looking for cash.
For a moment, I thought I'm dead because for a moment I was not feeling much.
Eventually, the suspect left with Garadape's wallet and cell phone. He broke free and ran next door to ask someone to call 911. Garadape hopes the video will help catch the guy before he does it again.
We could blame it for the COVID-19. We could call it on poverty in the air. Whatever it is, it does not lessen the pain and suffering that the victims go.
In Missouri was more than 10 times lighter for the same crime, injecting a fatal dose of industrial-grade silicone into a woman's butt.
Miss Lee left Texas to come all the way up here to Missouri to shoot whatever she shot up in my sister's body, and she killed her. So to me, that's a murder.
It's not murder in Missouri. Vernetta Rochelle Sanders' 22-year-old sister, Dacia, died in 2015 from silicone injections she hoped would improve her body.
I've heard so many things that people have been shooting in their buttocks. I've been hearing fix a flat, some type of silicone.
Our suspect was kind of a ghost.
That suspect, now convicted, is Nautica Lee. Lee convicted of fatally injecting.
Marching through North Portland streets, clashing with drivers Thursday afternoon. Tonight, we're hearing from a man who was sent to the hospital after a confrontation with that group. Fox 12's Camila Ortiz joins us live now in studio with more on this.
Yeah, Nora, I talked to that neighbor last night who actually saw this physical confrontation happen and saw a man on the ground with people on top of him. Well, now we're hearing from that man who talked to us after appearing on the Lars Larson show from his Emmanuel hospital bed. Joe Hall has a long recovery ahead of him.
Partially collapsed left lung, 2 lower vertebrae fractured.
That's on top of 5 broken ribs, a broken collarbone, and head trauma.
I stood my ground, and I would do it all over again.
Hall, a local handyman, says he was trying to defend himself after getting stopped in his pickup by a crowd in the street and other vehicles along North.
Tonight, shots fired after water boys fight over money. One teenager injured, flagging down officers for help.
This all happening outside Rosie's Cafe, Northside Drive, right next to Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
CBS 46's Barmel Lyons is live there tonight. And Barmel, you have exclusive video of what took place.
Yeah, Sean, I do. Water boys dashing in and out of traffic gets even more dangerous after an altercation in this parking lot turns into gunfire. Now, I speak to locals and community advocates who are asking the city to step in so that businesses like Rosie's Cafe won't be affected. Bullets went flying in the parking lot of Rosie's Cafe in Atlanta Thursday night. One moment, a bunch of young men are gathered on the sidewalk, and then it's clear the moment shots were fired.
It's a disgrace that we have to witness that, especially people who just come to somewhere to have a good time and eat.
Police say these water boys got in a heated altercation over money at the intersection of Northside Ave and Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. This young man in the video shot, firing back in retaliation, then flagging down police officers for help.
So by the time you hear the sirens and the police lights, you know something has happened.
The ongoing sale of water on city streets is a controversial topic. In fact, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms hired a new executive last month to address the issue and connect youth with resources and other job opportunities. But some say that's not enough. The owner of Rosie's Cafe, Erica Stevens, saying in a statement that she believes in entrepreneurship, especially amongst our black youth. But this situation with the water boys has truly gotten out of hand.
My heart immediately felt like we still have so much work to do, and I